Hi, you're watching a Rutgers Institute of Earth, Ocean, and Atmospheric Sciences video interview. Today we're at the Rutgers University Marine Field Station with Dr. Ken Able, who's the station director and an EOS faculty member. Ken, can you tell me a little bit about what your research is focused on and what you're working on now?
Yeah, the research emphasis here, and has been for about 30 years, is on this particular ecosystem, this particular estuarine system. And the reason for that is that it is one of the cleanest estuaries, the Mullica River Great Bay Estuary, one of the cleanest estuaries in New Jersey, and even more surprising to some people, it's one of the cleanest estuaries on the east coast of the United States. So we do a lot of baseline research, taking advantage of of our location here at the field station, and then we use this estuary as a baseline for comparing to other more impacted systems, such as New York Harbor, or in some instances the Gulf of Mexico, and so on. So again, this is our baseline. This is where we spend most of our time. But the insights we gain here are critical to understanding how this and other estuaries work.
Okay. Can you take me through kind of on a day-to-day basis, what you doing research looks like, what you're working on?
Yeah. One of the intriguing things about doing research at the station is we have no real schedule. We are not, by any stretch of the imagination, 9 to 5 operation. Our research is field-based, and so we depend on weather and tides for a whole host of scheduling that goes on. So for example, we've been sampling larval fishes coming in through Little Egg Inlet off a bridge near the station, and we do that on night flood tides. So that could be at 9 in the evening, it could be at 12 at night, it could be at 3 in the morning. And so, yes, we don't have a regular schedule. Many people are here during the day, but we're often working at night. We're often sampling at night as well in other areas, because we want to make sure that the fish are not avoiding our nets and so on, our main way of sampling. And so that we often do things during the day, but often at night as well.
Right. And before you mentioned this is the baseline site. Can you talk about, I guess, what the overarching goals of all the data and sampling is? Is it comparing with other places? Can you talk about that?
Right. So again, my research and many of the people here is focused on the biology, ecology of fishes, mostly in the estuary, but out on the continental shelf as well. And so we are trying to understand the natural history of the animals that live here. Even though many of the animals that we study are harvested in commercial and recreational fisheries, there's still surprisingly many basic aspects of their life history that we don't understand. So we're trying to fill in the gaps in our understanding of the natural history. The other component of our research is very much habitat-based. What habitat do these animals use? Are the habitats in good condition? Are they changing? So there's a very strong habitat component. And in recent years, with the increasing understanding of the effects of climate change, we're placing more emphasis on that, how the fishes respond, how the crabs respond. And because we have several long-term time series, some stretching back 30 years, that enables us to understand how things are changing in recent decades.
Have you seen any major changes or trends?
Yes, quite clearly. Very simplistically, water temperatures are warming on average. They're getting warmer every year in the estuary and the ocean, and we're seeing a response on the part of the fishes. Again, very simplistically, we are seeing more southern species and fewer northern species. So the fish fauna is changing, and we think it's in response to climate change.
Okay. I also wanted to ask you about the history of this site, and can you tell me when did you start working here too?
The history goes back a long time. This facility was actually constructed in 1937. It was built as a Coast Guard station. Coast Guard was in here into the 60s, abandoned this like many other facilities because of improved communication in boats and so on. The university took it over in 72, worked slowly to restore it, but the main emphasis and the reason the history is so important is that this site is exceptional in that, as one example, for someone who studies fishes, the fact that they swim under my office on high tide provides all kinds of opportunities that other people can't have. I have a good appreciation of this because I was on main campus for 9 years before I moved here, and my whole research program changed. The way I teach classes changed and so on because of the proximity to the water and to a natural, relatively unimpacted estuary.
Right.
So I've been here 32 years, and that time span has enabled us to create several time series of data that help us understand things like climate change or the impacts of fisheries and so on. So it provides us a unique opportunity, and that is why we use this estuary as such a baseline for understanding change, both in terms of fisheries and in terms of climate, but also we use it as a baseline for comparing to other systems. For example, New York Harbor, where we've been working for 20 years. New York Harbor is the antithesis of this system. It is heavily impacted by human activity, and yet by studying that system as well as this system, we can get real insights into how estuaries function or do not function.
Right. And you mentioned how you transitioned over here from the main campus. Are there opportunities for current Rutgers students or faculty to work here?
Yeah, there are lots of opportunities. We invite people to come in, take advantage of our long-term databases, take advantage of the facilities that the station have in terms of boats, jumping off port for getting into marshes, getting into other parts of the estuary. So there are lots of opportunities, and we've taken advantage of that in the fact by having graduate students, postdocs here, visiting scientists really from around the country, as well as summer interns and so on. I think in some ways the summer intern program is one of the most interesting because you can see somebody's eyes light up and you know that you've influenced them potentially for the rest of their life.
Right.